shoulders and giving them a stiff shake. We tried grabbing people around the neck and choking them, and people just don't get it. So something is needed to wake people up out of this stupor that they're in. And that's another way to read dominion. Dominion could also be a synonym for stewardship. When I, I'm speaking metaphorically here, but when you have dominion over the earth, that's like me, Gary, giving you the keys to my house when I go on vacation and saying, hey, watch over my house for me while I'm on vacation. When I come back, I don't want to see like all the windows broken out and beer kegs in the front yard and all my furniture in the back bedroom. I gave you the house to look after it for me while I was gone. So I agree. There's a tremendous responsibility that comes with our level of conduct. We can't abnegate that.
Yeah, but of course we can. I mean, we have, unfortunately. And look, who's arguing that anger is philosophy? Who the fuck's even saying that, you asshole? I'm a human being. I have emotions. I care about things. So when I talk about things I care about, I'm going to do it with emotion, you motherfucking cunt. So what? Why is that a problem for you? I mean, how does that break the philosophy exactly? I don't see how. Well, how do you make this connection between philosophy and someone's demeanor? So you can't separate their words from how they speak their words? Are you that stupid and fucktarded? Well, whatever. Demeaning people is inferior philosophy. Well, whatever. Again, I mean, why would a philosopher worry about that? Why would they even worry about something called and insult? Why would even those words matter to somebody who was arguing a point?
Well, I think 3D glasses is mainly pushing back on a stylistic point rather than a substantial point. I mean, you take somebody like Modern Mystic. He never gets angry. At least I've never seen him get angry. But he doles it out in this very um, placid, tame, monotone voice, and I think I responded to one of your videos. It's like having your face pressed into a bowl of cold oatmeal to listen to him sometimes. And so I
Yeah,
don't
well,
mind.
but he's a perfect example. He doesn't fucking care. Okay, he's admitted. I mean, he's a nihilist. I mean, he doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't think any of it fucking goddamn matters. He doesn't even care if you torture him. I mean, he just has no. He has no concept of any realistic point of view when it comes to this whole question of suffering and whether it fucking matters. I, on the other hand, for 50 years have been really pissed off that shit suffers in this universe, in this fucking on this fucking shithole planet, and it pisses me the fuck off. And the people who are causing it piss me the fuck off. And when I'm talking to those assholes, I'm going to be as insulting as I fucking wish. Jackass. No, we should just have a polite conversation with the fucking racists and child molesters. Yeah, just talk to the child molesters in a nice scientific voice. Fuck you.
Well, that's uh that's an approach that major mainstream media likes to push. That for every argument there's two sides. Tonight we'll be talking about the Holocaust. On the one hand, Joseph Goebbels. On the other hand, uh, whoever that Nazi hunter from Israel. I mean, every argument doesn't have two points of view.
Well, I guess every argument does. Yeah, but every subject, I guess, does it. doesn't have two equal points of view. I mean, it's this equality thing. Everything has to equate. Nature equates, suffering equates. It all balances. Everybody's always, hey, look, nature's balanced. No, it's of course it's balanced, asshole. It has a state, and it's always going to find its state, and its state is going to look like balance. But that's has nothing to do with being balanced.
Yeah, I know it's been done to
Well, how
death.
is how I
Done.
feel about Obama a relevant question? I mean, if you watch my videos, you'd already know that answer. But whatever. Yeah, he's a typical Democrat that we get lately, which is really just Ronald Reagan in a somebody in a mask. I mean, he's fucking Bill Clinton all over again. He's a useless pile of fucking shit. He's worse than Bill Clinton, though, actually.
You know what I think would be a kick in the pants, Gary? Would be to have you as a guest one week on one of those TV talk shows like McLaughlin Group. I really think that was perfect. What I don't think you mentioned Obama by name, but you were talking about the mindless American voter and how they just fall for any kind of bullshit. And I think you said, yes, we'll lower your taxes and give you more benefits. We'll give you more stuff. Really? You can do that? Absolutely, we can do that. Well, I'll vote for this guy then. I thought that was great. I mean, if somebody made a point like that, I don't know, maybe it'd wake this country up. Probably not. Probably nothing would wake this country up. Anyway, that was
Yeah,
pretty
I don't
funny.
know how they haven't already seen it. I mean, we've already been there and done that. I mean, it's just Ronald Reagan all over the place. I mean, it's just, and I just don't know how people didn't learn any lesson from that. And it's funny too, though. The real funny thing is how the Concord Coalition, the whole opposition to the deficit spending thing, I don't know, that whole movement somehow just died. And you're like, and things are more out of control than they ever were. And it's just so funny that there's just nobody. It's like everybody just said, well, I guess there's just no way to stop it, so we'll just sit here and pretend it doesn't exist or something. But I mean, this is just, you know, I mean, we're just so fucked. Nobody's dealing with the problem as if we're fucked. There's no way to pay the money back without either the stock market going down to zero. I mean, there's no way you can avoid the depression. There's just no way you can avoid it. You can't pay the money back, and you can't keep borrowing money. So I mean, there's no answer to this problem.
Yeah, well, there's don't pay
there is an
the
answer.
money back. There's always that.
Yeah, but I mean, that that'll kill the stock market too. So I'm just saying, unless you don't pay the money back in some times, everybody understands what's going on. Yeah, I just don't know how you just. But I mean, it's obvious the money can't get paid back. I mean,
Well,
that's the funny part of it, and people are just.
well, here's the thing,
investing in
Gary.
the
Think
fact
about
that,
this.
well, when does it finally fall? Is the only thing that's the argument anymore.
If they let those banks fail, then it would have been paid back at that moment, and everything else would crumble. Well, no, because those banks live off of the produce that everybody else is already doing. So it would recover, especially since not every bank failed. A lot of local banks would do a lot more business. You'd have to go to a local little bank
that's not
in
true, Pyro.
South Michigan to build a
Stop for a minute. Stop
Sure.
for a minute, though. That's really not true, though, because all the leverage is controlled by the banks. So it's the leverage that keeps the stock market where it is. So the truth is.
Well, it's
is
the
that
short
banks
hairs,
did
though, not
fall.
real leverage.
If the banks would have no, but I'm just saying that all the debt is the leverage, okay? And so that would have been the beginning of the end of the debt. So yes, it would have destroyed the debt question, but the stock market was not going to come back, okay? If the banks failed, the stock market, the Dow Jones would be at 1200 now, okay? Not 10,000. It'd be at 1200. I mean, people would have gotten thoroughly wiped, okay? I mean, they would have lost big time. That Vegas game would have lost big time.
Well, and they should have. It's just that they put all these retirement funds in them, and so everybody's in those now. But that's exactly who they're reaming. That's how they got into this, and they're reaming other rich people now too. But it really started because they had these big, fat, blind pension fund 401k kind of things, and it's just really easy to rape them or put a story in newspaper and get a couple dollars and short it here, and and that's how they got into this stuff. But sadly, the people that do own that, those are the ones that are supposed to be taking the risk. The thing is, it could get really bad because they have us in the near term on all this stuff. But the fact that we have to remember is the real produce is that some guy goes and mows and keeps some other guy's lawn fine, and this other guy goes and does some doctoring, and this guy goes and cuts some hair. That's really, and that's still going to go on. Now, if all the banks went out, we'd be back to the Stone Ages, but that wouldn't happen. There's even big banks that aren't like that. World Bank, the people that stayed out of the dot-com boom, even some big ones. They would be the replacement big ones. And then there's medium-sized banks in, various counties. These construction people would have to go to them for their loans to build a little local Safeway instead of going to, one of these big banks anyway. And those local, southern Michigan banks, they do have enough money for that kind of thing. They deserve the chance to do that kind of business.
Well, I'm just saying it'd be huge dislocations and there'd be huge changes.
Yeah, it would be. No, it would be a depression. Economy. It's not realistic.
Yeah, I mean, so but yeah, I mean, realistically, it's what's got to happen in the end. I mean, we've got to readjust, rebalance the ownership question.
Yeah, basically, if you want to have it painless, if you want to have it painless, it's some way of going through this process. And, the thing is, I think it has to be letting single banks fail at a time. I mean, ideally, you would reform the system so you don't have trillion-dollar failures and weird things like those story in, I think it was England, where the 20-something guy managed to literally lose £1 trillion or something like this, just unsupervised. You get that under control, and then after that, if a big bank goes out, you've got other ones to cover for them, and you don't save them. You don't save, if you do want to save a Chrysler or something like that, there's only one way. The government buys it and tries to run it as a resource. And that doesn't sound too realistic too often, does it? So yeah, we shouldn't do it too often.
Or else have all bankruptcy, so all unpayable debt, all debt that's declared unpayable, as it's declared unpayable, have all bankruptcy be paid, okay, by inheritance taxes. So collect all the money to pay off all the bankruptcies out of the inheritance tax. So you'll have a 99% inheritance tax because you're going to have more bankruptcies each year than you're going to have money that gets inherited. And that's the way to get the money out of the rich man's hand and put it back in the worker's hand, and to rebalance this equation and that'll give you a gradual crash. That'll give you a crash where people are still going to have money. They're still going to be able to buy houses, so the prices won't go all the way to the bottom and create a fire sale for the super rich. And it'll also prevent that handing off of the money. This idea that you just get this free ride. Here's the IOUs that your ancestors sold me, that tell me I own you. No more of that crap where some little fucking shithead says, "Look, I have an IOU with your name on it, fucker." No, fuck you. And that's the way to get rid of it. And it's a very fair way, I'd argue. It's a very fair way. Have the inheritees who don't inherit debt, have them inherit the liability of the debt. I mean, that's the price of the risk taking, right? Is the losers, the bankruptcies? That's the price of the risk taking. So let them pay the price of the risk taking.
So Gary, I'm not real clear on your position. Are you suggesting remedies for the system? Because when you started out, it sounded like you were saying that the system is in the process of an inevitable decline and collapse, which is what I would agree with. I don't think there's any salvaging this mess. I think the trillions or hundreds of trillions of dollars in derivatives that are out there,
well, I just pointed out a way to salvage it, because the hundreds of trillions of dollars, okay, can now be lost, but lost in a way where it's only going to be taken out of the hands of people that shouldn't have the money in the first place. So that's a mechanism where, yeah, you can have a graceful, you're still going down a cliff. It still isn't going to be great. But yeah, you can tumble down with a helmet on and some padding and, some leather, to keep you in one piece, and you'll survive the trip. But those are your two choices. Yeah, you can just fall off the cliff hard, or you can fall off in some way where you got a chance of surviving.
Okay, gotcha. But you know, there's other problems too, as I'm sure you're aware. I've never really sounded you on peak oil, but you know, we're